But yeah, as a small business, I mean, definitely you want to put people at ease. You want to, and again, not to trap them, but because you want to talk to people who are, giving you the reality, right? And you've only got a short amount of time to get at it. And the resume doesn't tell the whole story. Having to hire and then fire and then train and then hire and hire and train and fire and hire and train it. Continuing to do that while you're looking for the right fit, that's going to cost you money.
Hello there, and welcome to Skyman and the Bug. I'm the Bug, and that is
the Skyman.
We are here to build relationships, technology, and work on the many wonders of being a business owner and a nutcase. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to you listening to us, laughing with us, and taking the journey with us as we build businesses and relationships. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Skyman and the Bug. My name is Nikkei Roach. I am, of course, the Bug, and my cohort and fellow nutcase is Josh, the Skyman Shemensky.
Nutcase? Come on now.
Well, thank you very much for being here. Hello, entrepreneurs, wannabe entrepreneurs, people who are struggling with funding, jobs, and all the other stuff like that. And today is no exception. We get to talk with folks in a variety of industries, talking about things that are important to them, but also to help you to focus on the success. We often talk about being the CEO, of being a leader, and we talk about tech, and we talk about relationship building. But one of the things that we have not yet tackled was being able to work within the HR space. That's getting a job, losing a job, exiting a job, why you lied on your resume.
Johnny never does any of that. She probably never sees a thing like that.
And how you got caught. And so
alternative facts.
We brought in an HR expert who has worked with some of the best and brightest, some of the major corporations I'm not going to name because I don't want to give them any money unless they're paying me, and they're not currently. But she also works at another franchise, but also has had extensive experience teaching people how not to make bad decisions when they get a job, and how to get a job in the future. So Johnny, welcome to Skyman and the Bug. So go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask a question. So I've known you a while, and we've built a relationship over time, and I think, you as family now, but I'm sure you have some nightmares that people have done over the years that, no names now. So, but you have some stories you can tell about things not to do in the HR world.
Sure. I guess let me just introduce myself really quick. My name is Jonni. And I am an HR manager and talent acquisition recruiter for a franchise. And I recruit for manufacturing, skilled trades, legal admins, hospitality. Before that, I worked several years with a big box store that shall remain unnamed. You can guess. And so I spent a dozen or so years hiring and firing for them as well. So that's kind of the background on how I fell into HR. It's really my happy place. I think of myself more as a matchmaker. I look up to both of you because you are wizards at networking and building relationships, and so you're both people that I look up to for that, because that's what my whole job is building relationships.
Well, thank you.
I thank you both for that, for being examples to look up to.
I don't know if you want to look up to this, but whatever.
Nutcases unite.
Yes.
So that said, just for funsies, I'll tell you one that recently for a manufacturer, I sent out a resume. He had a solid resume, good experience. I really liked him. I thought he was going to fit in. That's a big part of my job. I really do, like I said, look at myself like a matchmaker. At the end of everything, I want my people to be happy and fulfilled and making good money at an honest job. And I want my client to walk away with little hearts in their eyes because they didn't have to do the hard work of vetting and all of that. And so it's a beautiful place that I sit in the middle. And when everybody's happy, then we're in good shape. And so I found this guy and he was so great. And I sent him for the interview. And one of the things that had happened to him, and the reason that he was looking to move out of his current situation, was he was at a company that did not take safety very seriously. And they had a horrible on the job accident that resulted in a death. And so he called me. He said, "Get me out of here because it's just, they didn't start even having safety meetings until this accident happened. And I want to be somewhere that's safety conscious." Okay. So I send him to this place that I love. And the client is a good, has become a good friend over the years. And she reaches out and she says, "Well, we're not going to move forward with him because um, it just doesn't appear that he's very safety minded." And I'm thinking, that doesn't even track. Like, we're sending him in because he is. Like, what's going on? In the interview, what he communicated to her was that the company he is currently at has too many safety meetings because they're for this horrible accident that they had, and they were never doing any safety meetings. So now they have meetings every day, twice a day. And some of them are like, "Hey, we're going to gather around this door and practice opening a door safely that nobody's on the other side." And so what he communicated to her in this interview was, I'm at a company with too many safety meetings. Ugh, okay. So I send in a second candidate who, again, I thought would be a great fit, was doing really well. And she tells me that when she explains the attendance policy to him, this is how our point system works. And really, in the first 90 days, you got to strive for perfect attendance, which is anywhere you go. Your first 90 days should be, I'm on my best behavior, you know. Um, and so he never made it past hiring because when I asked her, "Hey, what happened with him in the interview?" She said, "Yeah, every time I mentioned attendance, he said, 'That sounds hard. That sounds really hard.'" And she was like, "It's not hard. You just need to, get up and come to work. And if you wake up and you're in kind of that, I don't feel like it today, push through that, at least in the first 90 days." And he was like, "Yeah, but sometimes you really just you don't feel like it." So I do my best, but people do go in and shoot themselves right in the foot. And so
So is there like, I mean, you have two examples of people who did
stepped
not
in.
who look like, I mean boneheads. I mean, I'm sorry, it is what it is. It's communicating ineffectively. One communicated very effectively that he is not going to be there on whoever that person was, not going to be
Yeah.
there on attendance. So you can forget about them showing up consistently. The other one was the great candidate, but he miscommunicated his frustration with the other company, and it looked like he had um taken that same frustration and apply it to his current
Yeah.
application. So are those common mistakes that people have, that they bring, baggage or something like that from a job, and then they bring it to the new place or something like that, and that's what harms them?
Well, I think so. Like, I do have, over the course of the years we've developed, and me and a fellow recruiter and I, between the two of us, we have, I don't know, 30 years of experience or something. And we don't look nearly old enough to have that.
What is Josh doing?
I don't
Oh,
know.
I was making sure my sound was working. Sorry.
He's doing this crazy stuff with his hands.
Oh,
Go
he's
ahead.
fixing his hair.
What hair?
um, exactly. But no, so
Mm.
I've come up with a very good here's what to say, here's what not to say, very general, thing. And I do prep people, but you can't prep them for everything, right? So you need people to have that modicum of common sense to be able to extrapolate from my, like, "Hey, don't say anything negative about the company you're at right now." And he could have solved that by just not saying anything negative about the company he was at right now. And I think what happens is people who interview well with me, that I go, "Okay, this is going to be a good person," I put them at a level of ease and a level of comfort that maybe they shouldn't have when they go in to see the client. And so I think a
Mm.
lot of mistakes happen because if you're good at your job and interviewing, you're going to put people at ease and kind of disarm them a little bit. And so I I don't know how to teach that part of it, to, like, "Hey, yeah,
As
you
it
want to
as it
be yourself, but you still have to present, a face and answer the questions honest.
But as an employer, let's go back to the other side of the coin because there's an employee side and there's an employer side. Having that skill set, even if it's a small business and they don't have an official HR, they may
Yeah.
have, you know, a fractional, HR manager or something like that. Would it make sense for them to understand that disarming people to make them feel comfortable so that you can, I don't want to say trap them, but you can get into, yeah, are you going to not show up kind of question?
Yeah, I think that part is important. And again, it all goes back to relationship building and just, being the kind of person that people talk to. And yeah, with the second example, we definitely weeded somebody out that I think would have been a problem. Um the first one, I think he made a boneheaded move, and I still think he would be good over there. Um he stepped in it. And so but yeah, as a small business, I mean, definitely, you want to put people at ease. You want to, and again, not to trap them, but because you want to talk to people who are, giving you the reality, right? And you've only got a short amount of time to get at it, and the resume doesn't tell the whole story. And that's part of why, using somebody like me is actually a good thing.
So
A small business doesn't necessarily have the time and the expertise to put into hiring. So you hire somebody like me, and what you pay me to do it is pennies in comparison to what an unfilled position costs you, or what having to hire and then fire and then train and then hire and hire and train and fire and hire and train it, continuing to do that while you're looking for the right fit, that's going to cost you money. And so, finding somebody like an agency, or someone like me that can go in there and go, hey, I've got, 15 years doing this. Let me use my, you know, some of it is art, some of it is science. And some of it is just a gut feeling.
So you are the connector, albeit conduit of HR. You figure out the best fit for people and what and whether they
Right.
will work well in that environment.
Right. And so part of
It's
that is I really do consider myself a partner with the small businesses that we work with, um, an extension of their business, right? I learn their company culture as much as I can. I kind of go in there, I tour, I see, for my manufacturing people, I actually go in and stand on the line and figure out, like, what does this machine really involve, and that kind of thing, so that somebody who a business that can't necessarily afford someone who's doing straight up talent acquisition all the time, they can afford me, you know?
yeah. So I have a little HR story. So in a past life, when I was working in a different industry, um, a multimedia person was assigned to follow Bigfoot around and do a video, and it was a fun assignment, all that kind of stuff. He instead of embracing this easy assignment, he decided to no call no show it. So
No.
and it was in the newspaper industry, and they were featuring that video in a article, um, you know, regarding the Bigfoot Hunters Society, all that kind of stuff. So everyone, they advertised the day before a video coming about. So long story short, the guy was fired for one no call no show. Two, um, he thought he was bigger than his position. It turned out, you know, that evening, his then wife, who's no longer with him because he made some boneheaded decisions in his life, calls me crying. Is there any way you can work your magic and get him back on the team? I go, no, no. He burned that bridge and scorched it. So
Right.
is there any boneheaded decisions that you've seen in your years of experience that, yeah, like no call, no shows that were detrimental in a in that sort of way?
Yeah, definitely. I had a direct hire recently. It was a near six-figure job. It was a very good job, and he just kept hesitating. Like, I had the job offer and he didn't want to sign it till he came in. And normally we can do a direct hire all, through phone and Google Meets and stuff like that. And no, he wanted to come in and and he kept putting it off to the point where the client was almost ready to just pull the job offer. And then at the very last minute, he did take it. He signed it. I sent it in, and then he was supposed to start on that Monday. And then he reached out and said, "Oh, I kind of want to go out of town and see my family before I start a new job." And we push it back. And so we pushed it back a week. And then the day that he was supposed to show up is when he said, "Yeah." So he didn't no call, no show, but he was like, "No, I don't think I'm going to take it." Okay. And the reason he was leaving his current place, because the best candidates are really people that I can kind of poach away from someplace else, right? And so the reason he was leaving was because he said he had no work-life balance. He has a kid in high school now that does football and he wants to be at the football games. So he was working third shift, and sometimes that third shift was 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So he couldn't see these football games. And so I kept reminding him, like, we're doing this because your kid's a linebacker and you want to go watch him. You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about that. And then in the end, he ended up not going. And then 2 weeks later reaches out and says, "Hey, do you think they'd have me?" No, not now. And unfortunately he really would have been a great fit, and it would have fit in with his life. So that's kind of one of those ones that disappoints me. But I don't want to talk just about horror stories because it's going to sound like I don't know what I'm doing, but I swear I do. um so let me give you a really good one. I, I had
Sure.
a I had a lady that applied when I was with the big box people, and she had just an eighth grade education. She was super ashamed about it. She was like, I had, eight younger siblings, and my mom passed, and I was the one that had to take care of them, even though I was only 14. And she's like, "I know I haven't finished high school, but I'm gonna." And hired her. I can teach you how to do anything. Okay. I can't teach you attitude. You came in with an attitude of, "I'm going to work. I'm going to be humble. I'm going to be grateful, and I'm going to do this work." And so, um, I really still feel like every job is teachable. I can, yeah, to a certain degree, you need some experience, but I'm hiring for attitude. I'm hiring for, are you going to show up? Are you not going to be a bonehead? And so this particular lady, she was hired, and then within 6 months, she actually qualified for a program where the company paid for her GED. And so she went and got her GED. By the end of, I want to say it was a year and a half, she had her GED in place. And so now she was eligible for promotions. And so she got her first promotion. She was an hourly supervisor. And then this company also paid for her bachelor's degree. So she ended up finishing her bachelor's degree, and she's a store manager now for, they make decent money at that particular big box store once you get into
Hmm.
management. Um, and so I, I recently heard from her, and she was like, "I wouldn't have anything that I have if you hadn't taken a chance on this, eighth grade dropout." And so, thanks for that. So stuff like that means a lot. So sometimes you hit a diamond in the rough, and you just got to take a chance. And so,
I think
um,
you said something in there, which is really important, and sort of you said it a couple of times, so I keep hearing it. Is I hire for attitude. I mean, I can
Hmm.
teach you the job. I mean, if it's widgets or turning this or working in retail, customer service. Um, I mean, even if you're coding, in our industry, but if you're front facing, meaning you have to work with a team or you have to have the attitude that is going to coalesce with the rest of the team. I wanted to see if we're looking at promotional and this is in the communications and relationship building, especially like her an example. What are some of the things that a person can do if they're um attitude? We got that. That's sort of right there. What are some of the things a person can do if they already got the job? They've been there for a little bit, and they're looking at growth in that organization, be it manufacturing or retail or tech or healthcare or wherever they're going into. What are some things they need to do day 1, day 90, day 120, day whatever?
I think keeping in mind that coachability is a superpower. I mean, being open to learning new things, to listening, to constructive criticism, not getting your back up when somebody says, hey, maybe we do it this way or whatever. And I would imagine that is even true when you're hiring people that aren't customer facing, right? Like your coders, they still have to have that coachability and that communication piece where they've communicated to you, hey, I'm going to show up and I'm going to take it as a challenge. And if you tell me I have to write, I don't know how your job works, but like 17,000 lines of code a week or what, I don't know how it works. But however you set your goals. And I think on the business side of it, that's part of it too. Communicate your goals. Bring your people in to what the goals are. Bring your people into the conversation about, hey, this is what we're looking to do. That's how you get people that aren't owners to feel and act like owners, because that's part of it too, I think. So on the employee side, definitely realizing that being coachable is that's everything. But on the flip side, you've got to communicate to them too. They got to know what they're fighting for, what they're in there for. Because not everybody is just showing up to like get their paycheck and go home. And I think that's a big, and that's valid. There's people like that. They don't want to think about it. I have people working for me in hospitality right now where they could be doing so much more. And I put that in air quotes because who's to judge that? But they're happy doing this because they get to go in and smile at people and do their job and then go home, and they don't have to take it home with them. So that's a valid thing as well. But I think, and especially for a small business, you want people to treat their job like they're also owners, right? And so
Mm.
you do that by communicating what the overall goals are. You communicate that and you help people grow. And I think that's, you know, um, I think that's part of it. Productivity, you know, communicating those goals clearly, I think.
So I,
That
I hire for two things and two things only. One, I don't look at a resume because it what they're going to be doing with us is not going to do what they did before. I hire for A, self-initiative,
Mhm. Yeah,
B, fit. Everything else can be taught, but if you
yeah,
have great self-initiative, you're going to show up on time. You're going to do your work. You're going to if you don't have something to do, you're going to ask for more things to do. I can work with that every day of the week,
yeah,
and that So if you have those two qualities, everything else can be done.
yeah.
I wanted to jump on that too. It's similar, not similar, but just going back to what you said, Johnny, earlier, with somebody being happy to be. Because I have a colleague of mine who has worked in a very well known company, and I'm intentionally avoiding names because again, they didn't pay me any money, so
Not a
until they pay,
sponsor.
exactly. Um,
She's getting the hang of this.
yeah, not a sponsor. Okay, not yet. We're still working on that. They were highly stressed. And you said something about work life balance earlier. And I know that sounds almost crazy with job markets being extremely competitive nowadays.
It
AI
is
is really downsizing a lot of workforce and stuff like that. But they did something which I didn't think that. I mean, to me, it was like okay. First, it was like wow, and then it was like okay, um, making great money, taking care of whatever, and decided that, okay, I'm going to go back to school and
Mhm.
I'm going to become a barista.
Nice.
So it means like
Valid.
you're just imagining somebody who's a corporate executive. That's what I'm getting at. And then go in and says, and so somebody on the outside might say, "Oh my God, that's a bonehead move." But you're like, "Where's the work life balance? I'm working all the time. I'm busting hump. I'm
Yeah.
we get so ingrained with got to make a paycheck that we forget about the joy." And I heard a Buddhist monk say something about, and this is not, and I'll probably misquote it. It says something about if you're in a place you hate, you're in prison. And I thought about that.
Mhm.
But can you turn that place into a place that's not a prison? It doesn't mean you have to leave that job per se, but you don't have to hate it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
What
Yeah.
is, what is your take on sort of people switching from executive positions to positions that one might say, why would you do that? But they find so much joy in it, in being a server and working manufacturing, getting to healthcare where they get to touch people as opposed to sitting in a static room. What is your take
Yeah.
on it?
I think it's valid. I think that it's very easy for us to sit here and judge and go like, "Oh, he was making six figures and now he's not." And like, but it's not always about the grind and the hustle and the money, is it? It's about, it's about being able to like live your life in such a way that you get to the end and you're not regretting things, you know. I have a friend who is a death doula, so she kind of helps people that are in hospice and moving on, like people, and she said nobody ever regrets what they did. They regret what they didn't take the time to do.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
when you get to the end, you don't want to be sitting there going, "Oh, I wish I'd gone and see my kid play football," things like that. So, I
Yeah.
think that's valid. I think that it is very easy to judge people. I know that that's a thing that I see happening on LinkedIn a lot, and in talking with other recruiters and stuff, that there are people like your friend that, want to kind of step out of the role that their journey seems to be taking them on to go to something else, and hiring managers are like, "Oh no, you're overqualified," or "You're going to be unhappy." Like, don't guess that I'm going to be unhappy. Like, give me a shot, that kind of thing. So it's lucky in a way that he found the barista job, because there would have been places that would say, "No, sir, you're too overqualified for this," or whatever.
So as far as I'm concerned, at the end of the day, the most important thing that anyone could do is be able to smile at the conclusion of their day. If you can't
Yeah.
smile at the conclusion of your day, then what are you doing? Get out of that
Yeah.
situation and
And
start
that doesn't
smiling.
mean there aren't hard days. I mean, there's hard days. There's days I go home in tears and go, "What am I doing? Maybe I should be a barista. I'd be a really good barista." but but I think that the overall arc should be, I'm doing something that speaks to um that passion that's inside of me. There's a diagram that's floating around that's like, things that bring me joy, and then things I'm good at, and then where they intersect, that's where your job is. Like,
Hmm.
um
Well, Johnny, it's been an honor to have you here on Skyman
thank you
and the
so
Bug.
much.
If someone wants to track you down and hunt you and stalk you, okay, not stalk, I'm teasing. Not, no, no.
LinkedIn is probably the best way to get me. Jonni Valdes Goulding, which I wish any of those names were common. When I was when I was a little girl, I used to say, "When I grow up, I'm going to change my name to Mary Ann Smith, just so I wouldn't have to explain it to anybody."
Don't do. We had a James Smith, and good luck trying to find James Smith on
Oh
a
gosh.
LinkedIn. It is
Yeah.
hard because it's so
Yeah, well,
common.
now it's kinda easy to find me. I lived in Puerto Rico for, 14 years or something, and I used to joke that I didn't even have to give people my last name. Uh, I was the only gringa-looking Latina named Johnny, spelled my way,
It's
on the whole
hey,
island, 4 million people, and it was easy to find me. I worked for a
easy to
winery in
find
my
you. But Johnny,
so,
thank
yeah.
you very much.
Oh,
And
and
I would
then
say,
I am on LinkedIn.
cool. Well, look for Johnny on LinkedIn and come to another podcast with Skyman and Bug, where we share introspective. I'm working on words here. Um, we're kind of here, and thank you for being here, guest. And we'll see you on another episode of Skyman and the Bug.
Thank you so much for having me.
See ya.
Sure.
Bye.
You've been listening to
The Skyman.
and the Bug. We appreciate you being here. Join us again for another episode of Skyman and the Bug. And if you have any questions, reach out to us either on LinkedIn, Facebook, and other places that you just try to find us.
Take care.
Bye.